Hey everyone, Mah-Dry-Bread here, and today I am a judge for a game jam called Lux Jam. It was a recent game jam where people had 48 hours to create games based around the theme of light and shadow. There were 119 entries, and I've been asked to make a review of the top 6 games, so I should only need to play each game for 10 to 15 minutes maybe? I'll be rating the games based on personality, gameplay, and overall. These are just my personal opinions, so don't take them too seriously. I'll be rating gameplay based on how fun it was to play, personality based on how much I got sucked into the vibe of the game, and overall is basically if I recommend the game or not. These games are all free, and if you'd like to support the creators, you can always name a price on some of these. Let's get into it, starting from the 6th place entry. If you want to play any of these games, the Game Jams page will be in the video description. The Warrior of Light and Shadow. This one is a bit rough around the edges, and I guess is to be expected for 6th place on a 48-hour time limit. This is an interesting idea. It's a simple dungeon crawler with very light bullet hell qualities. You can switch between light and dark mode at the touch of a button, and can only damage enemies that are the opposite. Dark mode is faster and has a bit more range, and light mode has a big sword and kind of sucks compared to dark mode. It's not always easy to tell what enemies count as dark and what ones are light. That's a problem considering you can't damage enemies that are the same color as you. A detail that the tutorial kind of tried to tell me and fail? Might be a resolution issue. The game is really zoomed in, so it's a bit hard to play, and the hit detection feels a little dodgy. For gameplay, 3 out of 10. I like the idea a lot, but if the basic idea is that I have to change my color to hurt enemies, but I can't tell what color I have to be for some of them, then there's a real problem. Plus, it just kind of feels clunky. You know, hit detection isn't quite what it feels like it should be. Personality, 3. Again, I like the idea and a little bit of the artwork, but I still just feel like I was in a super generic dungeon. Overall, 3. I think that this is like a fun little flash game that you'd goof around with in the old days of Newgrounds. Not one of the awesome ones, but a decent one to kill 5 or 10 minutes with. 5th is Lamplight. This one is a browser game, and I can't get it to run. I don't know what to say, both in browser and on my computer, I just can't get it to load. Honestly, I kind of just expected this would happen with one of the games. The games are made in 48 hours as a time limit after all, so I'm sure it's to be expected that there was no time to figure out if the game would work on everyone's— Wait a minute, it just started working in the background while I was writing this. Jesus, that music was like a jump scare. Alright, so this is Lamplight, and I'm happy this one ended up working. This is like a classic puzzle platformer from the old Flash game days. You can walk, jump, and shift between day and night. During day and night, the platforms change position, and there are different obstacles and goals. It's a really simple idea, but a fun one. I do find that it feels like I often jump late and the controls are just slightly stiff. It kind of feels like you fall too fast as well, so when the game makes you do a really hard jump early on, it feels like a big difficulty spike. The game is also super short. They said that they ran out of time pretty early on, but I think the game's got some potential. For gameplay, this is a 5. The idea is great, but the controls are a bit clunky, and the difficulty really spikes up for one jump in a weird way. For personality, I'll also give it a 5. I like how the game presents itself, and I'm sure given more time, it would be even better. Overall, solid 5. Bit of a generic idea, but it's also an idea that usually works. Perfectly tied for 3rd and 4th place is Light and Shadow. This one is a really cool take on games like Breakout and Arkanoid. You're on the right side of the screen, and you control a Pong-type paddle, with the goal being to convert as much of your opponent's side of the field as possible by hitting it. Every time you hit the ball successfully enough times in a row, you gain a power-up that can help you with taking over more of the map. Rounds take 3 minutes, and at the end, you're declared the winner. Or you winner, as they put it. For gameplay, I'm giving this an 8. For a 48-hour game, this is ready to be slapped onto a Flash game site, and it would really make a lot of people's afternoon. The personality mostly comes through the sound effects and music, and they're really fantastic. I'm gonna say this game gets a 6 in personality. It does the most with what you can, given the type of game that it is. Overall, this is an easy 8 for me. For a game made within 48 hours, this is fantastic. The other tie for 3rd and 4th place is Light and Shadow, the movie, the making of the game. It's pretty hilarious, and I can see why this game got tied for 3rd place. It was clearly just some people goofing around and making a shockingly good game in the process. It's a game where you're the cameraman filming some kind of terrible buddy cop show, All you have to do is hold down your left mouse button where it tells you to, and as long as it tells you to do it. The gameplay is only going to get a 3, and honestly, that's fine for what it is. The idea is funny and it fits with what's going on, but it kind of gets in the way of paying attention to what's going on sometimes, and is clearly a game where the story and personality are the draw, not the gameplay. On personality though, I'll give it a 9. It's some friends goofing around and voicing a buddy cop show. It's hard to not be smiling when you're playing this game.
Come on! You got me. I got you. You got me. I got you. All right, partner, here I come.
Overall, this is a 7 to me. It only takes a few minutes to play and you'll get a good laugh out of it. I could easily see this being a mini game in a larger, fun indie game later down the line. This is a really good idea. Second place is Shadow's Perspective, and this one had a rough start. It's a 2D platformer with really dodgy jumping. If you kind of mash jump, it just freaks out when you're about to hit the ground. Sometimes it just launches you into the sky. I was wondering how this got second place until I hit the main game mechanic. You can switch to the perspective of a guy with a flashlight in a 3D environment, creating new shadows for you to use in the platformer segments. It's a pretty cool idea, and a few interesting ideas for it are explored in the game before the end. Gameplay is a 5. Really cool idea, super rough around the edges. It reminds me a bit of the Warrior of Light and Shadow in that way, in that this could be really cool, and the idea is really cool, but it's super rough around the edges. For personality, I'm giving it a 3. I'm pretty sure that you're just playing a blacked out Mega Man sprite. The music is really generic and doesn't loop properly, and the writing isn't very good. Honestly, I don't know why this game had writing. If they only had 48 hours to do this game and they were running out of time, I would have just focused more on the gameplay rather than weird little sweary dialogue. This just kind of feels like the proof of concept for a Flash game, you know? Overall, I like the idea, but I can only give it a 4. It could be good with more time, but it's not currently really worth playing. Last is number 1, Moonpath, and when I tried to download it, my computer auto-stopped me and said it was a Trojan. This is with most of my security stuff disabled since my computer is way too trigger happy with that, and it still thinks it's a Trojan. I'm sure it's probably not. I'd be completely shocked if it actually was. But I've got a Pokemon challenge to work on today, and I'm not risking blowing up my computer, so let's just assume the game was cool. I now have exactly as much credibility as a lot of the jerks writing these crap articles on game news sites now. Woo. Anyway, so overall, the one that I think was most worth playing was the one simply called Light and Shadow. It's just a fun little breakout game that you can play on your browser. I hope you found this video interesting though. It was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing. I've never been a judge on, well, anything before. Let me know in the comments what your favorite one of these games are if you give them a try. Again, there's like 119 of them. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go work on a Pokemon challenge and then play Animal Crossing until I forget that it's not real life. Until next time, have a nice day.